Jordan River is of symbolic and spiritual significance to many, since the Bible says this is where Jesus was baptized. Parts of the river are running low because
the Jordan River is disappearing. Year after year, the water keeps dropping, exposing places hidden for thousands of years. At first, researchers believed they had discovered ordinary ruins buried beneath the mud. But then they uncovered something impossible, a carved symbol no expert could translate. Deep rumbling sounds beneath the riverbed, water turning dark red without explanation, and witnesses claiming they saw something massive moving under the surface at night. Now, investigators are trying to understand why every discovery seems connected to ancient biblical prophecy, because the deeper they dig, the stranger the river becomes. The discovery happened just before sunrise. A small dive team had entered a shallow section of the Jordan River after sonar scans detected an unusual shape buried beneath the riverbed. At first, researchers believed it was another broken wall or collapsed stone pillar. They were wrong. One diver noticed something smooth beneath the mud. Not rock, not bone, something carved. Carefully, he brushed away the dirt. What emerged was a dark stone object no larger than a human hand, but the moment it reached the surface, the atmosphere changed. The object was covered with symbols. Thin lines curved across its surface in strange patterns unlike any known language. Experts compared the markings to ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, and early Mesopotamian writing systems. Nothing matched. One historian reportedly called it impossible. The stone also carried an image, a figure with wings, 6 wings. Its body stood tall above what appeared to be a serpent twisting beneath its feet. Even more disturbing, the carving looked untouched by time. The edges remained sharp, clean, precise. As photos spread online, biblical scholars immediately pointed to the book of Isaiah, where heavenly beings are described with 6 wings surrounding the throne of God. Others connected the serpent image to Satan, and suddenly the mystery exploded. Some believed the artifact was proof of an unknown civilization. Others claimed it was connected to fallen angels mentioned in the book of Genesis. But scientists focused on something even stranger. The material itself. Tests showed the object contained elements rarely found in the surrounding region. One lab technician reportedly said the object looked far too preserved for something buried thousands of years underground. Then the rumors began. Whispers spread that strange things started happening after the artifact was removed from the river. Equipment failures, lights flickering inside research tents, sudden power outages during examination sessions. One worker even claimed he heard the same underground sound coming from inside the sealed storage room. Officials denied the story, but they never explained why security around the site suddenly doubled overnight. And then the river changed color. Not days later, hours later. The water slowly turned dark red, and panic spread across the region. At first, people thought it was mud. Heavy storms sometimes pushed dark soil into rivers, changing the water for a few hours. That was the first explanation local officials gave when photos of the Jordan River began flooding social media. But this was different. The water was red, not brown, not orange, deep crimson. By midday, entire sections of the river looked like flowing blood. Fishermen pulled their boats to shore. Tourists gathered along the banks, recording videos with shaking hands. Some people prayed, others ran. Scientists rushed to test the water. They searched for chemicals, algae blooms, industrial waste, anything that could explain the sudden change. Nothing made sense. One researcher admitted the samples showed no clear source for the color. Another called the event highly unusual before refusing further interviews. Then the fish started floating to the surface, dead. Hundreds of them drifting through the red water. The images spread across the internet within hours, And almost immediately, people began connecting it to the story found in the book of Exodus, the first plague of Egypt, the moment the Nile River turned to blood before disaster struck the land. The comparisons terrified people, especially when reports from other countries began appearing online. Red lakes in remote areas, rivers changing color overnight, rainwater stained crimson in parts of Asia. Most officials dismissed the stories as unrelated natural events, but online a different theory exploded. People believed prophecy was unfolding in real time. Then another video surfaced. This one changed everything. It was recorded after sunset near a narrow bend in the river. The camera shook violently as someone whispered in fear. At first, nothing appeared on screen except dark red water moving slowly through the current. Then the surface moved. A long shape rolled beneath the river. Massive, too large to be a fish. The person filming gasped and stepped backward. A second later, something briefly broke the surface. A dark-scaled form. Then it vanished. The video ended there. Authorities quickly called it fake, but sonar teams sent into the river the next morning reportedly detected something enormous moving beneath the deeper channels. Something alive. And according to leaked reports, whatever was down there should not have been able to survive in a river this shallow. But that wasn't the worst part, because the sonar scans also revealed something hidden beneath the riverbed nearby, an entire structure buried underground. And what waited inside it terrified the excavation team. The sonar images did not look natural. Beneath the floor of the Jordan River, researchers discovered straight lines, square chambers, and what appeared to be collapsed hallways hidden under layers of rock and mud. At first, experts believed it was the remains of a small ancient building, but the scans kept going deeper. The structure stretched far beyond the riverbank. Within days, excavation teams arrived with heavy equipment, floodlights, and ground-penetrating radar. Security fences surrounded the area. Armed guards blocked nearby roads after dark. Officials claimed it was to protect the historical site. Locals believed something else was happening. The digging continued for 3 nights. Then workers broke through the top layer of stone. Below it was a chamber. Cold air rushed upward from underground. Several crew members later claimed the temperature dropped instantly the moment the opening appeared. One worker described hearing a strange echo rising from the darkness below, like distant whispering. Nobody could explain it. Cameras were lowered into the chamber first. The footage shocked the research team. Ancient walls covered the underground room from floor to ceiling. Symbols stretched across the stone in repeating patterns. Some looked similar to markings found on the winged artifact recovered earlier from the river. But one image appeared again and again. A serpent, coiled around a circle, facing downward. Then the cameras revealed something even stranger. The chamber floor was covered with bones, hundreds of them. Animal bones at first glance, but several appeared far too large to identify. One skull measured nearly the size of a car tire. Long teeth curved from its jaw like hooks. Scientists immediately ordered further testing. Some believed the chamber could have been an ancient burial site. Others feared something worse. One researcher reportedly compared the layout to descriptions found in ancient religious texts about places used to seal away forbidden things. That rumor spread online fast. Soon, people began connecting the chamber to passages from the Book of Revelation describing beings locked beneath the earth until the final days. Then another problem started. The underground sounds returned. Only this time they were louder. Workers heard deep vibrations beneath the chamber floor itself. Equipment rattled during late-night excavations. Several cameras malfunctioned without warning. One technician quit the site after claiming he heard a voice whispering from below the stones. Officials denied everything, but they could not explain what happened next, because on the fourth night, something triggered the motion sensors inside the chamber. Something large. And when security teams reviewed the footage, part of the skeleton pile was gone. By morning, the excavation site was in chaos. Researchers searched every corner of the underground chamber beneath the Jordan River, trying to explain how massive bones could disappear from a sealed room guarded all night. No answer came, but something else did. New scans revealed a second chamber hidden deeper below the first. This chamber was larger, far larger. Excavation crews widened the opening, while scientists prepared cameras and thermal sensors. Everyone expected more ruins, more carvings, maybe another burial site. Nobody expected what they found. The second chamber contained a nearly complete skeleton. It stretched across the floor like the remains of some giant, forgotten beast. The spine alone measured longer than a small truck. Thick ribs curved upward from the stone floor like broken pillars. And the skull did not resemble any known animal. Its jaw carried rows of sharp, uneven teeth. Bony ridges rose above the eye sockets like horns. Long, claw-like fingers rested beside the ribcage. Several researchers reportedly froze when they saw it. One scientist later described the discovery as biologically disturbing. Another refused to return underground. At first, officials tried to identify the remains as an unknown prehistoric species, but problems appeared immediately. The bone structure matched no animal in any fossil record connected to the region. Carbon dating only made things worse. The skeleton appeared incredibly ancient, older than many early civilizations, and buried directly beneath one of the most important rivers in biblical history. That connection sparked panic online. People began pointing towards the Book of Genesis and the story of the Nephilim, strange giant beings said to exist before the Great Flood. Videos exploded across social media claiming the river had uncovered evidence of creatures wiped out thousands of years ago. Scientists rejected the theory publicly. Privately, some admitted they had no explanation. Then, another detail leaked. The skeleton was not scattered naturally across the chamber floor. It had been arranged carefully, buried intentionally, as if whoever placed it there wanted it hidden forever. And that raised one terrifying question. What were they trying to keep sealed beneath the river? The answer may have started appearing the next night, because shortly after sunset, witnesses near the river reported seeing a movement in the water again, but this time it was closer to shore, much closer. Several people described glowing eyes beneath the surface. Others claimed they heard heavy breathing echoing through the darkness. Then, a local fisherman disappeared. His empty boat was later found drifting near the excavation zone. But the strangest part was what covered the side of the vessel. Long scratches, fresh, deep enough to cut through solid wood. The search began immediately. Security teams moved along both sides of the Jordan River using floodlights and thermal scanners. Helicopters circled overhead. Boats scanned the surface with sonar equipment. But there was no sign of the missing fisherman, only his empty boat. It drifted slowly near the riverbank, turning in slow circles like something had released it. When investigators pulled it ashore, they noticed something strange. The inside of the boat was soaked, not with river water, with something thicker. Dark stains covered the wooden floor, spreading in uneven patterns. One officer refused to touch it. Another described the smell as metallic and unnatural. Then they found the scratches, deep marks carved in the side of the vessel, too large to be made by any known river animal in the region. That night, the river behaved differently. The water stopped moving. For almost an hour, the surface became still. No current, no ripple, no sound. Then, sensors detected movement below. Something massive, moving against the flow. Divers were sent in at first light. What they recorded was never fully released to the public, but leaked footage showed something disturbing. A dark shape passing beneath them. Long, coiled, moving too fast for visibility to lock on. One diver can be heard in the recording whispering, "That's not a fish." Then the signal cuts. When rescue teams recovered the equipment, one camera remained partially intact. It contained a final frame, a blurred image of something rising from the deep water, scales, and what looked like an eye reflecting the camera light. Scientists attempted to explain it as a large aquatic animal, but the sonar readings made that impossible. The object measured far beyond known species capable of surviving in a river this shallow. Then another discovery was made upstream. A section of riverbed that had recently dried revealed something new. A trail. Drag marks, leading directly toward the excavation site, as if something had crawled out of the river and was heading inland. At the same time, underground sensors inside the buried chamber began to react again. But this time, the readings were not random. They were rhythmic, like breathing, slow, deep, and getting closer. Inside the underground site beneath the Jordan River, the equipment started failing one by one. First, the lights flickered. Then the cameras shut down. Then the backup generators lost power for 3 full seconds before restarting on their own. But that was not the most disturbing part. The seismic sensors had begun recording something new. A pattern. Not random movement, not shifting earth. A rhythm. Slow at first, then steady, like something deep underground was breathing. Researchers gathered around the monitors in silence. No one wanted to say it out loud, but everyone was thinking the same thing. Something inside the chamber was awake. Security teams ordered a full evacuation of the upper tunnel system. Only essential personnel remained. 2 scientists stayed behind to monitor the readings. That was when the temperature dropped again. Rapidly. Within minutes, the underground chamber became cold enough to see breath in the air. Then came the sound. Not through speakers, not through equipment, through the stone itself. A low vibration that seemed to pass through the walls and into the floor. One of the scientists whispered a single sentence before the microphone cut out. "It's responding." At the same time, satellite readings above the region showed something unusual. The surface temperature of the Jordan River had shifted again. The water was no longer flowing normally. It was slowing, almost stopping in certain sections. Then a new report arrived from downstream observers. The drag marks discovered earlier had changed. They were deeper now, wider, and they were moving. Not forming new patterns, extending forward, as if something beneath the surface was pulling itself closer to the excavation zone. Meanwhile, inside the chamber, motion sensors triggered again. This time, every camera rebooted at once for exactly 3 seconds. Enough time for one final image to appear on every screen. A massive shadow standing upright in the center of the chamber before everything went dark again. When backup systems were stored, the chamber was empty. No movement, no signal, no readings. But on the stone floor, fresh cracks had appeared, and something had been pushed up from beneath them. Something metallic, something carved, something that should not have been there at all. Within 24 hours, what was happening beneath the Jordan River could no longer be contained. Independent videos began surfacing online from people living miles away. They were not scientists, not archaeologists, just locals. But their recordings showed something strange. The river was behaving differently across multiple locations at once. In some areas, the water slowed almost to a stop. In others, it appeared darker than normal, almost still under the moonlight. Then came the reports from nearby towns. People were hearing low vibrations in the ground, not earthquakes, not traffic, something deeper, something steady, like a distant pulse moving through the earth itself. At the excavation site, officials tried to regain control. They sealed the lower chamber entrance. They restricted access. They even shut down communication from inside the tunnel system. But it was too late. The story had already spread, and with it, something else began to spread: interpretations. Online communities started connecting the events to ancient prophecy found in the book of Revelation. They pointed to passages describing signs in the earth, rising disturbances, and events tied to the final days. Others referenced older texts suggesting the river itself might be acting as a boundary between what is known and what is not meant to be released. But the official scientific response remained the same. No verified cause, no confirmed explanation, just uncertainty. Then a breaking report arrived from the Northern Monitoring Station. Seismic sensors across multiple sites were now detecting synchronized movement patterns, the same rhythm across different locations at the same time. This made no geological sense. One senior researcher reportedly said,